It workers. What is the most ridiculous URIT? You have to fix this request you've received. Old story. Back in the early 90s all of Alaska's calm was via satellite. We would get notices from our providers when a solar storm was going to slow down our throughput. I went upstairs to our finance and accounting chief to tell her the nightly processes might be late due to the storm. Her response was, "You're just fix it." Never let her forget that she saw me as a god. Our help desk, before it was renamed the support desk, eventually ended up keeping fluorescent tubes and whiteboard markers in stock because people would send complaints to the CEO that we were refusing to help when we asked them to contact the office manager for these things. The flip side is that the CEO eventually created a new email address for people to send complaints directly to him. Very few people knew that this special CEO complaints email address actually got forwarded to the office manager. People have the capacity for such unimaginable greatness and such hard to believe stupidity. I was personally once reported for sabotaging a specific secretary by refusing to fix her printer. It was printing garbage. Turns out she installed an Epson color printer driver from the disk that came with her friend's new color printer on her Win95 computer so that her mono HP DeskJet printer would also print color. She reported me the third time I uninstalled the bad driver and asked her not to do it again. I somehow become the Apple guy at my work. We recently received a batch of brand new iPad Pros, and within a week, I received a repair request due to a screen malfunctioning. Turns out by screen malfunctioning they meant completely destroyed. Shattered. Like it had been continuously hit with a hammer. Lady is giving vague explanations about what happened. Talking about how it might have fallen off her desk onto the carpeted floor. But apparently this is something I can fix. She needed it for a meeting that afternoon. I had to explain that this isn't something we can fix. That I'll need to go through Apple for a replacement device. Shocking news. Apparently. Back in my very early career I had this customer named Mr. Windsor. He was this grumpy older guy and everything was an emergency, and he was always yelling about some issue he was having. The most memorable is he called us livid over some site he was getting a forbidden error on. How dare we forbid him from going to his website? I had to patiently explain that there was an issue with that site and he'd have to contact the owner. About an hour later he calls back demanding to speak to me personally. He got an email saying he had a fatal error. How dare we wish him to die? Finally figured out that he'd misspelled the email address and the fatal error was coming from the mail system. I just looked up the number to the web company and told him to call. I'd love to know how that conversation went. Anyway, a few days before Christmas we get a phone call. It's Mr. Windsor. He is slurring his words and clearly been drinking something festive. He called to apologize for being a miserable old duffer and thank us for being patient. Back to his usual miserable self after Christmas, of course. Interesting character. The power went out in our building, and the owner of the company wanted to know what we were doing to get the computers up. I was asked to fix a cabinet once. I don't mean like a server rack or anything. I mean a literal wooden cabinet with shelves and stuff. Edit. I was once also asked to fix an old oscilloscope that was out of warranty. It was running embedded Windows, so I could at least sort of see their thought process on that one. But it was still a no. Early in my career, when I still did home user work, I had a client request an on-site because every time I go get a beer, my computer crashes. Wouldn't crash when he went to the bathroom or anything. Just when he went to get a beer. So I'm staring at this computer and I can see in the logs that there are crashes but nothing that would help me understand what was causing it. Because it's not the beers. Finally I'm grasping at straws and ask him to show me what he does when it crashes. He says, I told you. It crashes when I go get a beer. So I'm like, just humor me. He sits down in the chair and then stands up, walks clean to the other side of the house. Huge open living room thing with one of those weird sunken conversation pit things and heavy shag carpet. He walks up to this built-in mini fridge, opens it, grabs a beer, closes it, starts walking back, and opens the beer. And the computer takes a crap. What the duck? Took about 30 seconds of feeling like the world had gone mad and this dude was like some sort of weird beer magician. When the light bulb came on, the mini fridge was probably on the same circuit as a PC. The compressor in the mini fridge was going bad and drawing too much from the circuit. When it kicked in, brown out, and the computer would crash. Dude was right all along. His computer would crash whenever he went to get a beer. Lady called to report her monitor wasn't working. After troubleshooting and asking her multiple times if everything was plugged in, she finally pipes up that the monitor doesn't have the light on. The monitor wasn't plugged in, and she wanted me to wake a guy up at 3 AM to do it, because she was dressed too nicely to do it herself, because she was preparing for a meeting at 6 AM. Told her to do it herself, because I was not about to wake up the on-call for that. She complained to our director and he literally laughed at her and her reasoning for wanting the on-call sent out, and she is now banned from calling in. Get an email from a user one day. The numbers on my keyboard don't work. Alright. Not a lot to go on, but probably easier to just give them a new keyboard. I look up the user to figure out where I need to go with the keyboard and see their past logins are only on a work laptop. Alright. Better actually email them then. Just to confirm. All the other keys on the keyboard work, but not when you use the numbers on either the top row or on the pad to the right. Asterisk TWO days later 9 AM. User responds. Just the pad on the right. This is really annoying. Can you come take care of this quickly? Alright. You took your sweet ass time for that reply. But maybe you were out or busy. If it's just the number pad, probably has numlock turned off. I look up the model number. Definitely has a numlock key, so I email back at 9:15 AM. It could just be the numlock has turned off. There should be a key called num with a lock on it just above the number pad. Could you press that first, then try to use the numbers and let me know the results? Asterisk NEXTDAY asterisk USER submits a ticket, numbers on keyboard don't work. Frustrated at this point, I send another email. Is this concerning the issue with the number pad? Were you able to try the numlock key, and if so, how did that turn out? Asterisk TWO days LATER asterisk USER sends a new email directly to me, and asterisk CC apostrophe S the CEO of our 10,000 employee company. Email says I've been trying to have this issue resolved for over a week now. Can somebody please come fix my laptop? The keyboard does not work. I just stare at my screen for a minute. Who the hell is this person? System says they are just a CSR. Do they know the CEO? Have I really done anything wrong here? After the initial shock and self-doubt, I realize I'm totally fine and this guy has got to be the biggest moron in the world. So I walk over to my boss's office and let him know the situation. He's just as dumbfounded when I mention the CCing the CEO part. Says he'll look into it, but for now just go down and fix the issue. So I walk over to this guy's station, and he looks like he's 18. He tells me the same things I already knew from the emails. I lean over him, open a notepad, press a couple keys, and as I suspect everything works fine, but the number pad is moving the cursor around. Press the numlock key, and then type again. Numbers appearing. I just deadpan the guy, need anything else? And he of course doesn't understand, and just says no, but I can't believe it took you guys a week to figure that out. Knowing nothing good comes from this, I just say, have a good one and leave. Get back to my office. Boss is laughing his ass off as I tell him what happened. He follows up with an email to the guy's supervisor, CCing their manager and myself as well. Basically retelling the story in full. Last I heard, the manager chewed out the supervisor and the supervisor chewed out the CSR. Damned if I know, if an idiot that thick learned anything though. I had a doctor ask why the state's death certificate database didn't work for him over the weekend. Mind you, I didn't work for the state. I worked for a practice he did contract work for. I told him they were probably offline for maintenance when he tried to log in. But that wasn't good enough. He insisted I'd get a hold of the state's IT department and find out what happened. The database was working just fine when he asked. BTW. as he brought the working site up on his iPad right in front of me. So a week goes by, and he is in my office again, and asks if I had any luck with the stated debt. I had completely forgotten about his absurd request. So I said the following. As it turns out, I did. They told me some clod in their department decided to microwave a hot pocket on his lunch break, but accidentally left a fork in with it. The microwave blew a breaker that controlled the server room. Knocked everything offline for a bit, until they got it back up and running. Everything should be fine now. He was satisfied and walked away. Sometimes, people don't care what the answer is, just as long as they get one. Years ago I worked for a rather large ISP as a tech lead. A residential DSL customer called in demanding to speak to a supervisor because his internet was down and he was going to miss out on some multi-million-dollar deal if he couldn't get on the internet. He kept yelling at me throughout the call and demanded I fix it immediately. While troubleshooting the issue I could see that I couldn't reach the DSL his connection ran through. I advised him I would have to reach out to a dispatch center to have a tech go take a look at it. At some point he informed me that on his way home he saw that a vehicle had run off the road into one of our boxes and it had caught fire. He still said he was planning on suing our company if he wasn't able to be online to make this supposed deal of his. I passive-aggressively suggested he go to a Starbucks and wished him well with the lawsuit. A couple simple ones. I got called in to repair a broken printer. The guy was pretty livid as he was trying to print in a hurry. Turns out it ran out of paper. Even worse, I had my boss lose his crap on me that his computer didn't work and made the comment that nothing ever works around here, hinting that I failed at my job. I went into his office and found that he didn't turn it on. I pushed the power button and all I got was a no. Its support has to be one of the worst jobs. Stupid ass people. And anytime something like a mouse battery dies you're a pose. One of my first jobs was in the 90s. I was senior at admin for a medium size company. And on my day off, the CEO called. I had to get in cause the mail wasn't working and also the banking software didn't work. This CEO was primarily responsible for the financial department, so especially this last part was hurting him. When I came in, said CEO was really flaming, basically burning the entire department of 3 PPL as being incompetent, overpaid duck-ups, and all the loss of business revenue should come out of our pockets etc. etc. So during this lovely tirade, I come in, and in a few seconds I realize we have a problem with the internet connection. Keep in mind, these were the 90s. So we had a dual ISDN connection and a dial-up modem connected to it. I run a few tests, and instead of the common modem sounds, I hear some low-res voice on the line. I connect a regular phone to it, listen to it, and then gave it to the CEO saying, "It's for you." After that, the CEO said nothing and used his own mobile to manage the finances. What did the ISDN phone say? "Due to not paying you bloody bill, this line is disconnected. If you want to reinstate this service you have to pay XX. Admin costs etc. etc." I went home after that with a very big grin and started looking for another job. Drove for 2 hours to replace a touchscreen monitor that had stopped responding. Turns out they were wearing gloves. We used to log these type of callouts as ID 10 T errors. I work in web development, maintenance. I got a call from a client who was absolutely *livid* when I told her that she could not take the hyperlink text from her web page, transfer it over to their print ad, and still have it function like a link. Previous it for a US-based online bank. The sheer amount of calls regarding unsupported devices or user error that customers considered my fault was staggering. We had to accept and troubleshoot every call regardless, and would guess at most 15 of calls ended up being an actual tech issue rather than pepcac. Problem exists between chair and keyboard. My favorite though was a man cursing up a storm that he was taking his business elsewhere. He was traveling, and his mobile device did not allow access to our site. He had also apparently bought at least 5 that the previous rep had failed to make work phones from a street vendor before calling tech. He refused to allow me to go over the basics, like OSN providers, and kept saying just do your job. After at least half an hour, but probably longer, I finally was allowed to start with the basic steps. One of the first questions was OSN provider, all of which were 10 years out of date, or were names unfamiliar to me, and my list of supported devices. Frustrated, this man complained about where he was stuck unable to access his online bank. I don't remember the exact location, but I do remember my sadistic glee. This man was vacationing in an OFAC-sanctioned country. Basically he was vacationing somewhere like N. Korea or the DEM. RFC, that the US has issued sanctions against, and our policy did not allow his card or online access in that country. His response: I don't care. Fix it. Thankfully, after another half hour of me explaining I could not change security policy or the fact he was in a blocked country, he escalated to my supervisor, which made it no longer my problem. Posted this before, but I was a remote tech and had a woman call me and wanted me to drive 6 hours to her facility to turn on her computer because hitting the power button was not her job. My dad used to work in software development. One of his coworkers had to call it because his computer wasn't turning on. Turns out his power strip was plugged into itself. He never lived that one down. Once had a person call into the desk because the soda machine stole their money. I worked for an online college and a student wanted me to change his username. It was Goatbugger. Worked for a small bank. To its staff including me. Drove 60 miles out to a branch to fix an issue, and while I was used to getting hit with $1 million saved up, while you're here issues I was not prepared for. The toilet is acting weird. Can you look at it while you're here? Had a lady executive use her laptop bag as a wheel chop when her husband changed her tire. She ran over it. She brought it to us and said make this work. I have a presentation in an hour. Then left. We took it out of the bag, and it was U-shaped. We laughed at the situation. There was nothing we could do. The hard drive was even crushed. She came back and screamed at us for our incompetence while demanding another laptop. Her third in 6 months. Our team lead took the laptop to the VP of technology. He brought her down to our office and made her apologize and told us she did not get any more laptops. If she wanted to work on the weekends she had to come into the office. She was fired for sexually harassing a 17-year-old intern. His dad was a senior VP. Edit. Spelling. Got a call to remove a plug on a radio and push the wire through a small vent in the cabinet because the wire was unsightly. I did this while 15 executives watched. None of them knew how to change a plug and had never even seen the inside of one. But because it had a wire it was its responsibility. All sorts. It wasn't a demand. But I was once called to help get a fish out of a fish tank. It had decided to go on a suicide mission into the pumps, and I had to dismantle it all to get it back out. It died. I'm regularly asked to help hang doors, fix locks, program thermostats and boilers, change time on clocks, even repair people's spectacles, shoes, and anything they carry that could break and look technical. Hell, helping people with their broken down cars, or breaking into them when they lose their keys, fixing gates, all sorts. Some of it is electronics, which people assume is in its specialism when it's not, but often it's just the hands or nature that they are after. Most people realize it's not my job, but we have the tools, the eyesight. So many people with bad eyesight, the fine hand control, the know-how, the ability to find manuals and tutorials quickly, and the work surfaces to do it on. I was called to fix a point of sale issue for a small coffee shop. The computer was fine. The wall outlet tested negative for power. The owner asked how long till I could fix it. After explaining that she needs an electrician, she started screaming at me and demanding that I fix it because it is my job. After weeks of receiving phone calls from her screaming and vulgar emails being sent, we came by, took the computer system back, and cancelled her contract. Someone refused to believe that computers need power and won't work in a blackout. One place I worked, it was pretty much, if it got electricity, it was its issue. We had to fix the water fountain that wouldn't stop running. We had to fix the coffee machine. I work in the networking department as a support technician. I had a lady yelling at me and telling me our network service is totally crap. After calming her down, I found out that her TV is showing a blue screen and won't switch channels. The Wi-Fi is working more than fine on her phone and her kid sparks as he is playing an online game while we were talking. I was expected to fix her old TV as it was a network problem. Work in networks and used to share an office with people who just basically took situation reports. So when they were out of the office for lunch or called in sick, we'd answer their phones and take notes for when they got back out next shift came in. So our guy calls out one night and I take a call that some generator somewhere went out. Okay, cool, write it in the log and pass it on for the next shift. Then boss ends up questioning me on what I did about the generator. Like, what do you expect me to do? Ping it? Would you like me to get its MAC address? It literally has nothing to do with my job. This isn't the most ridiculous call I have ever got, but the dumbest that I had to go into work for after hours. Got called at midnight because our only PC started beeping, so I turned it off and now it won't come back on. This is for our life. Flight operators so seemingly important. Tried to get them to troubleshoot with me over the phone, but got told this is an issue for someone with a computer science degree, and since I don't have one, you need to come and fix it. All I could get out of them was that it was still beeping when she tried to turn it on, and no, I won't try again because it just gave me a headache listening to it. Drove the 45 minutes into work and found that they had pushed the keyboard under a cable, so it was holding down a key. Moved the keyboard and magically the beeping stopped. They were really apologetic though. They also had 3 PCs and only 2 operators at the time. I'm not it, but I have to support our product for 1 week intervals periodically. The worst call went like this. *ANSWERS phone. Company name. Off hour support. Can I help you? It's not working. Okay. What's not working? The thing. It doesn't work at all. Okay. What are you trying to do when it errors? It just crashes when I try to use it. I wound up needing to walk her through every single step from opening our website, logging into the portal, which icon they click, opening Citrix, the utility they use within our program, etc. just to determine where the problem was occurring. I had a lady who brought her laptop in for a simple software repair. I fixed it and get it back to her. She calls me directly 2 days later and is absolutely irate that her camera isn't working. I explained to her that I never touched her camera, but if she wanted to come back in I would gladly take a look. She didn't want that. Even though my location is all walk up and no remote support, she absolutely wanted me to remote in and figure it out because it was working before you. I worked on it. I put her on hold, and as I was looking up her machine name I remembered she had electrical tape over her camera, so I picked up the phone and said I seem to recall tape over the camera. Is that still there? She promptly hung up. Removed. Got a call the scanner in ours was broken. Thought to myself, we don't have a scanner in ours. Go to the office. The lady has Word open and is holding a document to the screen hitting enter repeatedly. I thought no one would believe me, so I brought about 5 other techs along to corroborate. Edit. My first gold. I have been waiting to say thank you kind stranger forever. I'll start. One time somebody at a company asked me why isn't the microwave working? You're in it after all. Fix it. I thought they were joking, but after a bit of deliberation, they were either serious or *very* committed to the role. I'm not in it, but I'm the go-to-it guy during lockdown. Someone called the other day from the other side of the region to tell me her mouse wasn't moving. When she moved it, the guy there the day before had taken in his own trackball and forgotten to swap them back. I worked the help desk at my grad school. We had the power to reset passwords on student and faculty accounts, ensure computers were interacting with the network properly, etc. Got a call from an elderly professor that he was having trouble logging into his account. Okay. I figured. I'll reset your password. Didn't work. Nothing I did remotely worked. Eventually I had to actually go to this guy's house. Many of the faculty lived in special on-campus housing, where his computer was already at the problem page. Yahoo Mail. This guy thought I had the IT powers to fix his Yahoo password. He had already locked himself out of his account by entering the wrong password too many times, and for some reason the forgot password link wasn't working. He became irate when I explained to him that there was nothing I could do because his Yahoo Mail account has nothing to do with our school. Not necessarily a networker, but a computer scientist. A lot of people get those confused. But one time I was at my sister's house and she needed help getting her printer connected. So she asked me, "You know how to do this, help me." And I tried to do it, because it was a simple Google search to fix this. But she is breathing down my neck, because I'm not getting this solved at the speed she wants me to get it done. She then drops a "Didn't you go to school for this" on me, and I respond with "No, I make software that sometimes works." Moral of the story. If you are a networker, or a computer scientist, keep that to yourself. Not me. And not the guy I knew. But someone *he* knew. A story from many years ago. This other fellow is a photocopier serviceman. He gets a call from one of their clients about their photocopier not working. He goes through the short list with the person on the phone, including it's plugged in. Right. The client assures him everything else is fine. So he grabs his stuff and heads to the client's site. First thing he looks at when he gets to the copier is the power cord. Sure enough, it's in the socket, but not properly seated. So no juice. So with the client there, he stands over the copier in the right spot, lays his hands on the top of the copier, and begins chanting. As he reaches the crescendo, out of sight of the client, he lifts his leg up and kicks the plug into the socket fully, and the copier comes to life. On the worksheet, in the area where he's supposed to describe what actions he took, he simply writes "I healed it" and has the client sign in.